Hi students, myself Satish Kumar Kondala, Assistant Professor, School of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Vignan Foundation for Science, Technology and Research, Guntur. In previous video, we discussed about the diuretics. In that, we discussed about what is meant by diuretics, importance of diuretics, and what is the physiology involved in the urine formation, and the physiology involved at 4 different sites of reabsorption. Then after we discussed about the classification of antidiuretics, the basic classification of antidiuretics. In the previous video, we already discussed about the mercurolide diuretics along with their mechanism of action and structural activity relationship. In this video, we are going to discuss about the non-mercurolide diuretics and its subclasses along with their mechanism of action, structural activity relationship. After completion of this video, student could understand the classification of diuretics, that includes these subclassifications according to their chemical nature, and also they could understand the mechanism of action and structural activity relationship of diuretics. The contents of this video includes the classification of diuretics, particularly non-mercurolide diuretics, along with their mechanism of action and structural activity relationship. Let us see one by one. Diuretics are majorly classified into mercurial diuretics and non-mercurial diuretics. In previous video, we already discussed about the mercurial diuretics. So that means these diuretics having the mercury in their chemical structures. So the mercury is one of the functional group which is required to show the diuretic activity in this type of diuretics. The mechanism of action in case of mercurial diuretics is nothing but the co-transporter which is present in the ascending limb of loop of Henle. So that is nothing but sodium potassium chloride co-transporter. So this co-transporter is blocked by the mercurial diuretics, thereby it prevents the reabsorption of sodium and sodium potassium. Thereby it prevents the reabsorption of sodium, potassium and chloride. Thereby the sodium concentration in the urine is increased. So that is a mechanism of action in case of mercurial diuretics. And coming to the non-mercurial diuretics, these non-mercurial diuretics are subclassified into thiazides, that includes the benzothiazidines, carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, loop or high ceiling diuretics, aldosterone inhibitors, purine or xanthine derivatives, osmotic diuretics, acidifying diuretics or acidotic diuretics, and miscellaneous diuretics. These are the different subclasses of non-mercurial diuretics. So let us see one by one. First one is the thiazide diuretics. Thiazide derivatives are again subdivided into thiazide derivatives and hydrothiazides. In case of thiazide derivatives, it consisting of basic structure like this. That means it consisting of thiazide ring and sulfamyl moiety at the 7th position. Examples of thiazide derivatives includes chlorothiazide, benzothiazide, flumethiazide. These compounds having the different substance at R1 and R2 position. So when you see in the R1 position, that is nothing but a substance at the 3rd position on this ring, and R2 is the substance at 6th position of this ring. And in case of chlorothiazide, at R1 position, that means at 3rd position it consisting of hydrogen, and R2 position, that means at 6th position it consisting of chlorine. And in case of benzothiazide, at R1 position, that means at 3rd position it consisting of carbon chain which consisting of sulfur atom. At R2 position, that means at 6th position it consisting of chlorine. In case of flumethiazide, at R1 position, that means at 3rd position it consisting of hydrogen, and R2 position, that means at 6th position it consisting of trifluoromethyl group. And the second subclass of thiazide diuretics is nothing but hydrothiazides. It is also having the similar structure as that of the thiazides, but the unsaturated double bond between the 3rd and 4th position is saturated in case of hydrothiazides. So the difference between the thiazide derivatives and hydrothiazides is nothing but the unsaturated double bond which is present in the thiazide derivatives between third and fourth position of this thiazide derivatives is saturated in case of hydrothiazides. That is the basic difference between these two molecules. And examples of hydrothiazides is nothing but hydrochlorothiazide, bendroflumetazide, cyclothiazide, hydroflumethiazide, cyclopenthiazide, trichloromethiazide, buthiazide, methiclothiazide, polymethiazide. So these are some examples of hydrothiazides. So in case of this one, there is a substitution at second position. There is a first nitrogen also presence in case of hydrothiazides. So these hydrothiazides having the different substituents at R1, R2 and R3 positions. For example, in case of hydrochlorothiazide, R1 position, that is at second position, it consisting of hydrogen, and R2 is nothing but at third position consisting of again hydrogen. At R3, that means at the sixth position it consisting of chlorine. In case of bendroflumethiazide, at R1 position, that means at second position consisting of hydrogen. At R2, that means at third position it consisting of phenyl methyl group, and at R3, that means at sixth position it consisting of trifluoromethyl group. Likewise, remaining hydrothiazides also having different substances at R1, R2 and R3 positions. Coming to the mechanism of action in case of thiazide diuretics, these thiazide diuretics blocks the sodium chloride channel. There is nothing but a sodium chloride symporter. The sodium chloride symporter which is present at the distal converted tubule, so which is present in the distal converted tubule. At this position, these thiazide diuretics will block the sodium and chloride symporter or co-transporter. By blocking this sodium and chloride co-transporter or symporter, reabsorption of sodium and chloride is prevented. The reabsorption of sodium and chloride is prevented. Thereby, the concentration of sodium in the urine is increased. And when this one is blocked, so when this sodium chloride channel or co-transporter is blocked, there is a decrease in the action of antiport, that is a sodium potassium ATPase. So the action of the sodium potassium ATPase is also reduced. So due to the decreased levels of sodium across the luminal membrane. That means there is a reduction in the sodium concentration across the luminal membrane. Thereby the sodium is not much available to exchange with the potassium at the sodium potassium ATPase antiport. So I repeating again the mechanism of action in case of thiazide diuretics. The thiazide diuretics will block the sodium chloride co-transporter which is present in the distal converted tubule. So here it is, the distal converted tubule. So at this site, these thiazide diuretics will block the sodium chloride co-transporter or symporter. Thereby the reabsorption of sodium and chloride is decreased and the concentration of sodium and chloride in urine is increased and they will excrete it through the urine. And due to the reduction of sodium concentration across this luminal membrane, there is a reduction of activity of sodium potassium ATPase. So what is the action of sodium potassium ATPase? It will exchange the sodium and potassium. So that means sodium is reabsorbed and potassium is secreted from the bloodstream to lumen site. Antiporter is reduced. Thereby it prevents this reabsorption of sodium and chloride. When there is a reduction of sodium across the luminal membrane, that can able to facilitate the calcium reabsorption. Calcium reabsorption by the exchange of sodium with the calcium. That is also happened by the action of thiazide diuretics. And coming to the structural activity relationship of thiazide diuretics, so when you see the basic structure of thiazide diuretics, it consisting of thiazide ring and sulfamyl moiety at the 7th position. And when you numbering this ring from this position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 like this. So the electron withdrawing moiety at 6th position of this ring is essential to show the diuretic activity. So electron withdrawing moieties like chlorine, fluorine. So the electron withdrawing groups like chlorine will increases the dietetic activity of this thiazide diuretics. And if there is any hydrogen is present at this position as the substrate, and that can make the dietetic activity of these thiazide diuretics as negligible. So that means when there is a presence of hydrogen as a substrate at the sixth position, it can remove the dietetic activity of these thiazide diuretics. And substitution with chloro or trichloromethyl moieties at sixth position. That means, as I said, that electron withdrawing groups at sixth position as substituents that can show the high dietetic activity. When there is a trifluoromethyl group is present as a substituent at sixth position of thiazide ring, that can increase the lipid solubility, thereby shows the longer duration of dietetic activity when compared to the chloro-substituted compounds. When there is a electron releasing moieties like methyl or methoxyl groups are substituted at sixth position of this thiazide ring, that can significantly reducing the dietetic activity. So that means, instead of electron withdrawing moiety, when there is a presence of electron releasing moieties or electron donating moieties like methyl or methoxyl groups at sixth position of this thiazide ring, that can significantly reduce the dietetic activity of these compounds. Removal or possible replacement of sulfonamide functional group which is present at the seventh position. So that means at the seventh position there is a presence of sulfonamide group. When the sulfonamide group is removed or replaced with any other substance, and that can decreases the dietetic activity. That means there is a chance to completely removing the dietetic activity of these compounds. As I said that there is a difference between the thiazide derivatives and hydrothiazides. That is nothing but the presence of unsaturated double bond between the third and fourth position of thiazide ring. Saturation of this double bond which is present between the third and fourth position of thiazide ring may increase the dietetic activity nearly 10 times more than the compounds which is having the unsaturated double bond between the third and fourth position of thiazide ring. The substitution at the third position of the thiazide ring with lipophilic functional groups like aralkyl, haloalkyl, thioether groups will significantly increases the dietetic activity of the compounds. The alkyl substitution at the second position, that is nothing but the at first nitrogen, will lower the polarity and ultimately increasing the duration of action of these dietetic compounds. So this is about the structural activity relationship of thiazide derivatives. And second one is a carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. Examples are acetazolamide, methazolamide, ethoxazolamide, dichlorphenamide, disulfamide. So when you see the basic structure of acetazolamide and methazolamide, it consisting of heterocyclic ring, and to this heterocyclic ring at the second position it consisting of sulfonamide group. And in case of methazolamide, so it is also having the heterocyclic ring, and at the second position sulfonamide group is there. And so one of the nitrogen which is present in the heterocyclic ring is substituted with methyl group. In case of ethoxazolamide, it consisting of heterocyclic ring which is having the ethoxy substrate, and at second position it is also having sulfonamide group, sulfonamide moiety. And in case of dichlorophenamide and disulfamide, so these two are comes under the disulfamyl benzene derivatives of carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. That means these compounds consisting of two sulfonamyl moieties, this one is this one and this one, and there is a benzene ring. To this benzene ring it is also having some substrates, and disulfamide also having two sulfonamide substrates, sulfonamide groups, and there is a benzene ring, and it is also having some substrates. And when seen the mode of action in case of carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. The carbonic anhydrase is the enzyme which is generally present in the proximal converted tubule, and this carbonic anhydrase will catalyze the reversible reaction, that is nothing but conversion of carbonic acid to water and carbon dioxide, or the recombining of water and carbon dioxide into carbonic acid. So that means, so there is a reversible reaction is occurred at the proximal converted tubule, that is nothing but dissociation of carbonic acid into water and carbon dioxide, and in the same way water and carbon dioxide into carbonic acid. So this is the reversible reaction, and this reversible reaction is catalyzed by the carbonic anhydrase enzyme, so which is located at the brush border cells of lumen at proximal converted tubule. The carbonic anhydrase inhibitors will block the or will inhibit the carbonic anhydrase enzyme, thereby so the reversible reaction is prevented. So that means when the reversible reaction is prevented, the sodium hydrogen antiporter action is blocked. So when you observe this picture, so without any diuretic action, that means without any carbonic anhydrase inhibitor action, so the general phenomena occurred at this site is nothing but the sodium is reabsorbed by the exchange of or by the secretion of hydrogen ions. So that is happened. So the hydrogen ions are produced from the carbonic acid. So the formed carbonic acid across the lumen membrane will dissociate into bicarbonate and H+ ions, and this carbonic acid is formed by the action of carbonic anhydrase enzyme. So by the action of carbonic anhydrase enzyme, the recombining of water and carbon dioxide into carbonic acid, and the formed carbonic acid will dissociate into bicarbonate and H+ ions, and these H+ ions are required to reabsorb the sodium by the sodium hydrogen antiporter. So without the presence of H+ ions, the sodium is not reabsorbed by this sodium hydrogen antiporter. When there is no action of carbonic anhydrase on the reversible reaction, then there is a reduction of H+ ions are occurred, then it leads to the reduction of sodium ion reabsorption from the lumen to the lumen membrane. So when the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors will act on the carbonic anhydrase, thereby it doesn't catalyze the reversible reaction, that is nothing but the formation of carbonic acid, and it is not available to dissociate into H+ and bicarbonate ion. Thereby the sodium reabsorption is decreased from the lumen to the lumen membrane, and from lumen membrane to the bloodstream. And when you see the structural activity relationship of carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, so as I said that the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors are again subdivided into heterocyclic sulfonamides and meta-disulfonamide benzene derivatives. When you see in these examples, these three comes under the heterocyclic. So acetazolamide, methazolamide, ethoxazolamide, these three comes under the heterocyclic sulfonamide derivatives, and dichlorophenamide, disulfamide, these two comes under the meta-disulfonamide benzene derivatives. And you see in the structural activity relationship of heterocyclic sulfonamides, the sulfonamide group at this second position, which is required to show the diuretic activity of these heterocyclic sulfonamide derivatives. When there is a substitution to the sulfonamide derivative, so that means this is the sulfonamide group, and is there any substitution to the sulfonamide group that can reduce the diuretic activity of that particular compounds? That means the sulfonamide moiety is required to bind with the Zn+2 ion which is present in the enzyme, that is a carbonic anhydrase enzyme. Thereby it should not substitute with the any other groups. The moiety to which the sulfonamide group is attached, so that means this one, so this group or this ring, and that should be aromatic in nature. To show the diuretic activity. So in case of heterocyclic sulfonamides, the heterocyclic sulfonamides which are having the higher partition coefficient and lower pKa value, so which are showing the great carbonic anhydrase inhibition activity. Examples like acetazolamide and methazolamide. These two heterocyclic sulfonamides which are having these two heterocyclic sulfonamides having the higher partition coefficient and lower pKa value, thereby they are having the great or highest inhibitory activity against the carbonic anhydrase enzyme. And when there is a N-alkylation with methyl group on nitrogen of the acetazolamide, then it can convert it into methazolamide. So that is converted into active molecule, that is nothing but the methazolamide. In case of meta-disulfamyl benzene derivatives, so this ring, the basic ring of meta-disulfamyl benzene derivatives doesn't shows the any diuretic activity. So that means without any substance on this ring, only disulfamyl moieties on the benzene ring at meta positions doesn't show the diuretic activity, but there is a substitutions are required to show the diuretic activity, and the unsubstituted sulfonamyl moieties are required to show the diuretic activity. So don't confuse here. Without any substitutions on the benzene ring doesn't show the diuretic activity. It requires some substitutions on the benzene ring along with these two sulfonamyl groups at meta positions to show the diuretic activity. But any substitutions to the sulfonamyl moieties which are present at the meta position may lead to decreasing the diuretic activity. And these sulfonamyl moieties can be replaced with these similar electrophilic groups like carboxyl or carbamyl groups that can also increase the potency of the molecule. The maximum diuretic activity of these compounds can be obtained by substitutions at the fourth position, by substitutions like chlorine, bromine, trichloromethyl or nitro groups at fourth position to this in this type of derivatives. Another important thing is that the amino group substitution at the sixth position will increase the alluronic activity. That means amiloride-like activity. Thereby the diuretic activity of this compound is reduced. That means when there is a presence of amino group at the sixth position, it increases the alluronic activity but decreases the carbonic anhydrase inhibitor activity. And third one is a loop diuretics, are also called as high ceiling diuretics. Examples are furosemide, bumetanide, torsemide, pyretanide, ethacryonic acid, ticranafin. And when you see in the chemical structure of furosemide, it consisting of sulfonamyl group, and there is a carboxy carbonyl moiety is present at the first carbon at the first position of this ring, and there is some other substance. In case of bumetanide, it is also having sulfonamyl group and carbonyl group. So that means the basic functional group of these high ceiling diuretics or loop diuretics is nothing but, so there is a benzene ring. To this benzene ring, carbonyl group and sulfonamyl group is present. Similarly, torsemide, pyretanide, ethacryonic acid, ticranafin having the. So the basic structure of loop or high ceiling diuretics consisting of a phenyl ring. To this phenyl ring, carbonyl group is present, and this carbonyl group is seen in all the examples of loop or high ceiling diuretic. When you see the mechanism of action in case of loop or high ceiling diuretics, these diuretics will inhibit the sodium potassium chloride co-transporter which is present at the ascending limb of loop of phenyl. This co-transporter is nothing but the glycoprotein with 12 membrane spanning domains. To this domain, loop or high ceiling diuretics are bind, thereby inhibiting the sodium potassium chloride co-transporter. These loop diuretics or high ceiling diuretics particularly bind to the chloride binding site of this co-transporter protein and inhibit the transport of sodium potassium chloride function. And when you see in this image, so at the ascending limb of loop of NL, there is a sodium potassium chloride co-transporter is there, and this co-transporter can be inhibited by the loop diuretics. The loop diuretics will inhibit the sodium potassium chloride co-transporter by binding to the chloride binding site of this co-transporter protein. Thereby, it prevents the reabsorption of sodium potassium chloride from the lumen. When there is a reduction of sodium across the lumen membrane, and it also ultimately blocks the action of sodium potassium ATP. So this is happen in case of loop or high ceiling diuretics. And when you see the structural activity relationship of loop diuretics, the basic structure of loop diuretics or high ceiling diuretics, it consisting of phenyl ring. To this phenyl ring, there is a carbonyl group is present, and at the fifth position, some of the loop diuretics or high ceiling diuretics having the sulfamyl group. And at the second or third position, consisting of amino group. When the amino group is present at the second position, then these compounds are called as 5-sulfamyl 2-amino-benzoic acid derivatives. And when the amino group is present at the third position, then the derivatives are called as 5-sulfonamide 3-amino-benzoic acid derivatives. In case of 5-sulfonamide 2-amino-benzoic acid derivatives, and other requirements for the diuretic action of these loop diuretics or high ceiling diuretics are nothing but at this first position, that means at the first carbon, there should be a carbonyl group. So that means C-double-bond-O group is required to show the optimum diuretic activity. The substitution of activating groups like chlorine, alkoxy, aniline, benzyl, benzoyl groups at the fourth position will increase the diuretic activity of these compounds. The presence of sulfonamyl group at the fifth position is required to show the diuretic activity in some types of loop diuretics. As I said that when there is a presence of amino group at second and third position, we can get the two types of derivatives like 5-sulfonamide 2-amino-benzoic acid when the amino group is present at the second position, 5-sulfonamide 3-amino-benzoic acid derivatives when the amino group is present at the third position. And to this amino group, for example, if the amino group is present at the second position and any substitutions like furfuryl, phenyl and thionyl methyl groups are present, and that can give the compounds which are having the maximum diuretic activity. So like furosemide and azoximide. So that means the compounds which are having the amino group at the second position, and to this amino group, if there is a substitutions like furfuryl or phenyl or thionyl methyl groups, that may lead to increasing the that may lead to generating the compounds which are having the maximum diuretic activity. So like furosemide and azoximide. So these two compounds are produced by the 5-sulfonamide 2-amino-benzoic acid derivatives. And from the 5-sulfonamide 3-benzoic acid derivatives, so we can get the bumetamide paratonide. And for obtaining the best diuretic derivative, the molecule should containing the weakly SD group, so which can able to direct the drug to kidney, and an alkylating moiety to react with the sulfonyl group and lipophilic groups. So that means a molecule which is having a weakly SD group. So that means for getting the best diuretic derivative, and that derivative should containing the weakly SD group and an alkylating moiety. So when these two groups are present in the particular compound, and that will act as the best diuretic compound. So the weakly SD group will direct the drug to the kidney, and the alkylating moiety is helpful to react with sulfohydryl groups and lipophilic groups which are present in the enzymes or proteins at which they will act. Understood? For getting the best diuretic compound, that compound should have the weakly acidic group and a alkylating moiety. The weakly acidic group will direct the drug to the kidney, and the alkylating moiety is helpful to react with the sulfohydryl groups and lipophilic groups which are present in the proteins at which these drugs will act. So this is about the structural activity relationship of loop or high ceiling diuretics. In next class we will discuss about the remaining classes of diuretic agents. Thank you.